Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. Today is the fourth installment on the circle of fifths, and we're going to be focusing on progressions, using the circle of fifths as a reference. All right, so let's just get right to it, and be sure to like and subscribe to Outsmart Your Guitar along the way. As you know, songs are made up of groups of chords, and the groups of chords are called progressions. A song can have 1, 2, 3, even 4 progressions. Some have even more, the more complex they are. But the idea is that each progression is made up of a group of chords. So the question is, how do you determine the chords that you're going to use? Well, the circle of fifths actually helps you understand how that works. Okay, so for example, you're learning a song by a group and it's in a major key. Well, there are a group of chords that you can draw from, that they drew from, to make that progression work. And if you know the key, then you can go to the circle and see, I see they've used probably these chords or some of these chords from this group. The same thing if they're in a minor key. There's a group of chords that are going to work and sound good together that they drew from. So now you have an idea of the chords that are involved. All it is eliminating the chords they're not using to find the chords they are. The same applies when you're writing your own music. If you're in a major key or a minor key, you have a group of chords that sound good together that you can draw from as the beginning of putting your progressions together. All right? So we're going to start fairly rudimentary, and this is to help people who don't understand stuff get up to speed with those of you who already do understand it. So look at that stuff as a bit of review, right? Then when we're all up to speed, we'll keep moving forward. All right? The graphic on the screen that you see is highlighting the 7 notes of the major scale in the blue arc. We start at 11 o'clock on F and go around clockwise to 5 o'clock and B. Each of the notes inside the blue field are notes of the major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Now, they're not in order, but if you look at it, you see they're all part of the C major scale. Now, you'll notice outside the blue field, a bunch of Roman numerals. F is 4, C is 1, G is 5, D is 2, lowercase i's, right? So 2, and we'll get into that shortly. A is 6, E is 3, B is 7, with a little degree symbol, which is actually in music the symbol for diminished, and we'll get into that at some point as well. Now, what we're doing, as you'll notice, this graphic is altered a little bit, showing major chords and minor chords on the inner circle. Each of the 7 notes of the major scale can also be considered chords. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see we've moved 6 of the notes of the scale into a little table. You can see F, C, G, D, A, and E, but you'll notice the D, A, and E are now minor chords. So we've changed them from a major sound to minor in nature, and that's really very easy to understand. I also want you to see that major chords have capital Roman numerals, uppercase Roman numerals, and minor chords have lowercase Roman numerals. This is to differentiate between major and minor. And you'll see that in the diagram on the right, that I've done that along the wheel of the circle, showing that each of those chords is major or minor in nature. Now, why are the D, A, and E minor chords now? Well, because the notes that are used in making all the chords using the C major scale as now chord tone roots, each of these chords are made up of notes solely from the C major scale. F is made up of F, A, C. Those are part of the C major scale. C is C, E, G, also part of the C major scale. G is G, B, and D, part of the major scale. D minor is D, F, and A, all also notes of the C major scale. A minor is A, C, and E, clearly notes from the C major scale. E minor is made up of E, G, and B, also clearly notes from the major scale. Now, if you play these as chords, this is what you're going to get. C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, I'm playing an A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, back to C. Now you'll notice it's the C major scale, but now the scale tones are now the root of chord tones. Again, C, D minor, E minor, F, G. Now if you want to play A minor, you can play B minor, C. Very cool stuff. So pause the video and practice that for a couple of minutes. And if you need to rewind and review what I just went over in explaining it, go ahead. Now, in the table on the bottom, I left the B minor 7 flat 5 out because in practical terms, that chord is a passing chord, not generally used in a progression as a chord you sit on. So I'm leaving that out of the table down in the bottom deliberately so. Well, what I've done now is I've taken the chords from the table and highlighted them where they sit on the circle of fifths. And you can see the F, C, and G are at the top of the circle, but so are the D minor, A minor, and E minor. And this creates a group of 6 chords that you can draw from to create a progression, just as we mentioned earlier about groupings of chords. This is how people operate, using groups of chords to draw from to create progressions. For example, how about this? C, G, D minor, G. 1, 5, 2, 5. All right, how about another one? If I can fret it correctly, but we played a C, an E minor, an F, and a G, right? 1, 3, 4, 5. And I could keep going with various combinations of these 6 chords using a few or all of them in creating a progression. And all 6 of these chords, no matter how you mix them up, are going to sound good together. In part, as I explained before, because all the notes of these chords are part of the C major scale. And we're in the key of C, so that further underscores the fact that these chords are all made up of notes from the C major scale, that they will work together very well. They will play well together. Okay? So pause and play around with this a little bit and see what you can come up with. Let's shift the key into the key of A. So we know that the A major scale is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, back to A. Now we're going to leave the G sharp out of this because that's the minor 7 flat 5 chord that isn't used in the bulk of writing or learning progression. So you see now everything is fundamentally unchanged with regard to the relationships of the chords to one another. So in the first thing we had in the key of C, I had played a C, a G, a D minor, and a G. So I played a 1, 5, 2, 5, bearing in mind that the 2 is a minor chord. So if we did the same thing in the key of A, we'd start with A, because that's the 1, and we go to the 5, and we look on the chart, and we see E is the 5, and then we go to the 2, which we see is B minor, and right there, and then back to the 5, E. So now we can play the progression. Now, something else we've also done here is we've transposed a specific rhythm to a new key. We played it in C before. Now we just played the exact same thing in the key of A. Learning to transpose is not difficult, and the circle of fifths is an amazing aid in helping you understand how you can transpose a song very easily. You learn the song in the original key. If you can't sing it in that key, or your singer can't sing it in that key, well, now you have the means to quickly transpose. If you convert everything to numbers, remember we mentioned the Nashville system in the written material, you now see how that works. When you convert chords to numbers, you can move them around as long as you understand the relationships between the chords. 1, 5, 2, 5, right? Knowing that the 2 is minor in this case. And this is a great aid. All right, now we had the other progression, C, E minor, F, and G. That was a 1, 3, 4, and 5. Again, here in this key, A is the 1. The 3, we look at the chart, well, that's a C sharp minor. And then the 4 is D. And the 5, we know already, is E. So there is our progression. Again, the transposing thing is really simple. And it's all because you just move the whole key group of chords to the new key, right? We had C as our foundation, our root, our anchor, if you will. Now we've moved to A as our root or our anchor, and we have the associated chords both on the outer circle and the inner circle. It really is that basic. So, this is how you transpose things as well. Now, pause the video and play around in the key of A. And the things you did in the key of C, move them into the key of A now, if you can remember what they were. All right? Or go back to C and create a progression, and then now move it into A. All right? Then you'll be on your way. And this is a cool thing to understand how to do. I want to back up here and go a little rudimentary on you to help people who don't quite understand certain things to get very clear in their understanding. Now, you've all heard of the 1-4-5 progression. Now, here's how you get to it. The circle of fifths has it laid out right there. You have 3 notes in a row, F, C, and G. The middle note of the 3 is your root tone, or the 1, the key tone as well. That's the key of the tune. And then you go 1 position to the left, and in this case, that's F. That's the 4 tone. Then from the 1 tone, you go 1 position to the right, and that's the 5 tone, or the G, right? So how we arrive at these is by using the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So C is 1, F is 4, G is 5. They're not just scale tone positions, they are also chord interval positions. 1, 4, 5. Right? And lots of blues and rock and roll uses this as well. So now what you can do is play around with this and then move it into another key. Say A as the center note of the 3-note sequence. So D, A, and E are 3 notes right next door to each other. A is the center note. A becomes the 1. Go 1 position to the left. D is the 4. Go 1 position to the right of the A. E is the 5, right? So let me move the camera. You're in A. 1, D is 4, E is 5. And again, you use the A major scale. A, B, C sharp, D, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. That's how it works. Nothing changes. Again, it's a lot of fun. Now you have a little better understanding, right? So pause, play around with this for a little while. The 1-4-5 works for minor chords as well. As you can see, we've now moved to the inner circle, the minor circle, and we got 3 chords in a row, D minor, A minor, and E minor. The A minor is the middle chord of the 3, so that's the key chord and the key of the progression. Now, again, you arrive at the 1-4-5 in the same way as you do with anything. It's based on the major scale. In A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is 1. D is 4, E is 5. So we have A minor, D minor, E minor. All right? So play around with it. Have fun with it. Experiment and explore. Now, if we were to move this to another position, let's say we moved to F sharp minor as our key chord, and so key of the tune. The 3 chords in a row are B minor, F sharp minor, and C sharp minor. Because the F sharp minor is in the middle, that's again the key. And we arrive at it the same way, in F sharp minor scale, or F sharp major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. F sharp is the 1, B is the 4, C sharp is the 5, right? All right, so just pause, experiment, move into different keys, see what you come up with. All right, have fun with it. Okay, let's look at a really common progression that was used to death over the last 20 years and more, and it was actually resurrected. It was used throughout the 50s and 60s in early pop music. And then it was resurrected in pop music, and worship music used it a whole lot as well, and continues to use it, although they are now moving away from it, thankfully. Okay, so that 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. So 1, 6, 4, 5. So C, A minor, F, and G, right? And you can mix it up. You can go 1, 5, 6, 4, right? And you may have seen the video on YouTube where these guys go through just a boatload of songs that are using these 4 chords, the 1, the 6, the 4, and the 5, and showing just how much it really has been used in popular music. But I thought I would check this and show you, here's the progression, here's what it looks like on the wheel, so that if you want, you can change keys by simply moving the grouping to another location. All right, there you go.